DeepSeek may have just beaten Claude Fable 5, not by winning every benchmark, but by getting so close that Fable's price suddenly becomes very hard to justify. The new DeepSeek V4 Pro 0813 nearly tied Fable on one of the hardest terminal tests, beat it on several other agent benchmarks, and costs up to 57 times less. And this happened only 2 weeks after DeepSeek's smaller Flash model outperformed the earlier Pro preview. So in this video, we'll compare V4 Pro with Fable 5, look at the real price difference, and find out which model makes more sense for coding agents. Because the most surprising part of this release is not that DeepSeek is cheap, it is how little performance you may have to give up. 2 weeks ago, DeepSeek updated V4 Flash. Flash was supposed to be the smaller, faster, and cheaper model. Pro was supposed to handle the difficult coding and agent work. But after the update, Flash outperformed the earlier Pro preview across every agent benchmark DeepSeek published. That created an obvious problem. Why would anyone pay more for Pro if the cheaper model performed better? DeepSeek said an official Pro release was coming soon. V4 Pro 08130 is its answer. This is not DeepSeek V5, and the company has not announced a larger architecture. It is still based on the V4 Pro model introduced in April, but its agent performance has changed dramatically. To understand why that matters, we first need to look at what coding agents actually do. A modern coding agent does not simply generate a function and stop. Imagine a login bug inside a full-stack application. The cause could be in the interface, the API, the database, or the authentication logic. The agent has to inspect the repository, reproduce the problem, choose the right files, make a change, and run the tests. If the test fails, it has to understand why and try again without forgetting the original task. This is why terminal and agent benchmarks matter. They test whether a model can keep working through a multi-step task, not simply whether it can write one correct piece of code. And this is where V4 Pro 08113 made its biggest comeback. The clearest result comes from Terminal Bench 2.1. V4 Pro Preview scored 72.1. The new V4 Pro scored 87.9 in DeepSeek's reported results. Claude Fable 5 scored 88 in the same table. The difference is only 1/10 of a point, and the improvement was not limited to one test. On DeepSWE, Pro jumped from 12.8 to 62.7. On DeepSeek's full-stack benchmark, it moved from 41.8 to 71.1. It also finished ahead of Fable 5 on Cybergym and Automation Bench, but this is not a clean victory for DeepSeek. Fable still wins most of the 9 tests shared by both companies. A third-party analysis puts Fable ahead by an average of 2.8% after removing one unusually large outlier. So, V4 Pro has not become the best model at everything overnight. What has changed is the kind of work where it can compete. DeepSeek is now close in terminal work, repository changes, tool use, and long chains of actions. The exact jobs for which developers normally choose a premium model like Fable. Until now, the easy argument was that Fable cost more because it belonged in a completely different class. V4 Pro makes that argument much harder, especially when we look at the price. Claude Fable 5 costs $10 per million input tokens and $50 per million output tokens through the API. V4 Pro costs less than 50 cents for input and less than $1 for output. Depending on whether we compare input or output, DeepSeek is between 23 and 57 times cheaper. Here is what that means in a real workload. Imagine a small team running coding agents for 1 month. Together, those agents use 100 million input tokens and produce 20 million output tokens. With Fable 5, that workload costs about $2,000. With V4 Pro, it costs about $61. Caching, batch discounts, and the number of retries can change the final bill. Fable may also finish some difficult tasks in fewer attempts, but it would need an enormous efficiency advantage to erase a price gap this large. For the same budget, you may be choosing between one carefully limited Fable agent and an entire team of DeepSeek agents working at the same time. That matters, because agentic coding is becoming more parallel. One agent can investigate the front end, while another checks the API. A third can write tests, and a fourth can review the final change. With Fable, every extra agent multiplies an already expensive bill. With DeepSeek, you can afford to let several agents explore different approaches before choosing the best result. More agents do not automatically produce better software. They can repeat work, make conflicting changes, or create more output for you to review. But a lower token price gives you the option to experiment without treating every additional agent as a major financial decision. That changes what DeepSeek has to prove. V4 Pro does not need to beat Fable on every benchmark. It only needs to be good enough that paying 57 times more no longer improves the final result. Would you still choose Fable for maximum quality or run more agents with DeepSeek? Let me know in the comments. But this raises another question. How did the same V4 Pro foundation improve this much? DeepSeek has not published a full training report yet, so we do not know the complete recipe. What we do know is that the model has not become larger. V4 Pro still has 1.6 trillion total parameters, with 49 billion active for each token. It uses a mixture of experts' design. In simple terms, the model contains many specialist parts, but only the most relevant ones work on each token. Anthropic does not reveal Fable 5's parameter count. Outside reports estimate that the related Mythos class system may have around 8 trillion parameters. Anthropic has not confirmed that figure, so it remains only an estimate. DeepSeek may be reaching similar agent performance with a model that is much smaller overall, and 0814 was not presented as a new pre-training run. That suggests the improvement may have come from post-training, teaching the existing model to plan better, use tools, recover from mistakes, and stay focused during long tasks. DeepSeek used that approach with Flash 0731. The company confirmed that Flash kept the same architecture and size and was only repost-trained. DeepSeek has not confirmed the exact same process for Pro, but the pattern looks familiar. The model may not have needed a larger brain. It may simply have learned how to use its tools better. DeepSeek also removed several practical reasons to dismiss it as the cheaper, limited option. V4 Pro supports tool calls, structured output, the responses API, and an Anthropic-compatible API. That makes it easier to connect to existing coding agents without rebuilding the complete workflow around a new provider. Both V4 Pro and Fable 5 offer a 1 million token context window. Fable can produce up to 128,000 output tokens in one request. DeepSeek lists a maximum of 384,000. That does not mean DeepSeek will remember more useful information or that a longer answer will be better. It simply means that, on the basic API specifications, V4 Pro no longer looks like the budget model in this comparison. But specifications and company benchmarks are not the same as using both models on the same real project, and Fable still has important advantages. First, Fable still wins more of the shared benchmarks. DeepSeek came extremely close on Terminal Bench and won several other tests, but that does not make the models equal across every type of agent work. Second, Fable has native vision. V4 Pro's official API is text-based. If your agent needs to inspect screenshots, designs, charts, or visual bugs directly, Fable has a clear advantage. And third, Anthropic provides a more complete agent environment around the model. Memory, code execution, context management, and the model itself were designed to work together. That polish matters when one failed task costs more than the tokens you save. There is also a reason to be careful with the new benchmark results. Most of the V4 Pro 8113 scores come from DeepSeek. DeepSeek used its own minimal harness and maximum effort for the code agent tests. That harness has not yet been released, which makes the exact setup difficult to reproduce. The 2.8% overall difference also comes from a third party combining the shared benchmark results, not from one controlled test. And because 08113 has just arrived, we still do not have enough independent comparisons under identical conditions. So, the results are strong evidence that V4 Pro improved dramatically. They are not proof that it will beat Fable inside every coding agent or every repository. But for text-based coding and tool use, the burden has changed sides. DeepSeek no longer has to explain why it is so cheap. Fable has to explain why it is so expensive. So, did DeepSeek beat Fable 5? In total capability, not yet. Fable wins more of the shared benchmarks, supports vision, and offers a more mature agent system. If one difficult task absolutely must succeed and the price does not matter, Fable remains the premium choice. It also makes more sense when the task depends on screenshots or other visual input, or when you want the most polished system without building the surrounding workflow yourself. But for text-based coding agents, V4 Pro 0813 may already make more sense. It nearly matches Fable on one of the hardest terminal tests, wins several other agent benchmarks, offers the same 1 million token context window, and costs a tiny fraction of the price. If you are running one high-risk task, choose the model you trust most. If you are building, testing, or running many agents, DeepSeek offers something more valuable than a small benchmark win, far more work for the same budget. That is why this release matters. DeepSeek did not make Fable weak. It made Fable difficult to justify. If this video helped you, leave a like and subscribe for more practical AI comparisons like this one.